Well, thank you very much for having me speaking here in DevRelCon Tokyo. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Ibrahim Cesar, and I'm talking from Brazil. It's 2 in the morning right now, and I pretend to present who I am, my own journey until now, my vision of DevRel as a developer, because I am not a DevRel. I think is a great opportunity to me to give back to this community that gave me so much. They love letter, and I want to address some concerns about creators economy and parasocial relationships because I care about all the DevRels that helping me a lot along the way. Uh, I am a self-taught programmer. Right now, I am technology director at Nexo, which means I oversee 3 publications. We are a news media outlet company, and I mostly program and develop for the cloud. Um, and it means a lot to me to bring attention to where I came from because, well, this represents a lot of who I am and who is speaking with all of you. Brazil in the last Stack Overflow survey was only almost 3% of the people in the site, and in the DORA's state of DevOps, we we as a continent, not the country Brazil, but the all South America continent was only 2% of people heard in the DevOps community. So at the same time, you have a lot of developers, but we are kind of misrepresented in the long, in the great discussion about development and or ways to build and make better software. So my vision of DevRel, I think is important. I disclosure what I see as DevRel because as a developer and as a person that is not a DevRel per se, I must say I kind of have to calibrate out of you what I see as DevRel. I see as continuum. I see as multifaceted, very polyformic um definition that spans a lot of people, paid or not, because I think there's a lot of great DevRels that works for the open source community and or is a huge fan of framework and so on. And I think this quote speaks a lot to me. Is from Guido Van Rossum, the creator of the Python language. He's talking about what's a master. He's surprised by Python all the time. What? Why I bring this quote right now? Because I think this is exactly how I see the role of a DevRel. They help other programmers, fellow programmers, because a lot of DevRels, I think, started in the field just by passion and to surprise others and discover new use case. So I see DevRel as kind of, the person with the light in the front of the darkness, and we are exploring the, ways to build things. So my love letter. Why I decide to write a love letter? Because of several points of reflections I had along the way in the last year. I started to look about in the moment I was professional and what I learned along the years, and since I am in a management position, I was thinking a lot about how to develop my own team and they become better in what they do. So the first thing I started to think is I always define myself as self-taught, but this is not really self-taught. Is because I did not check the source code or the assembly code. I pick up some post here, some tweet there, some presentation, and I keep thinking a lot about how we get this knowledge by the community and how many people are involved in this process. Is sometimes we didn't know it exists. I bring this quote by the late author Dave Foster Wallace. He in a university comments. He talked about his little joke. He said two young fishes are swimming and they meet a older fish, and the older fish say, "Morning, boys, how's the water?" And the fishes wave it, and then one look at the other and says, "What the hell is water?" Because sometimes we are so immersed in our contests and in our communities, we didn't uh, we didn't realize how much have communities of knowledge, how much people are thinking in all the content we are going to receive, and how many people are behind every little piece of code we 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 get from. So I when I saw the DevRelCon, I was talking thinking a lot about how many DevRels are shaping my future and what I was at the moment, and I thought it's time to thank you then, because you guys deserve. And then I know the community of DevRel is not one monolith. I will not enter in the discussion monoliths versus microservices, but it's not a monolith. There's each DevRel is its own person, but I will thank you for, in the general, what are the traits I liked most from the community, and that makes me grow as a person and as a developer. So I would like to starting. Thank you for guiding me through the basics, because I think this is sometimes when you get better at something or some framework or some language, you start to get grumpy, and it's like, oh, another post about the basics. But it's really important, and I really, really want to thank you all the works people put through in uh, show to us how to open a bash, how to do the most simple thing. And I want to thank you, because I think the basics will never has to stop to do the basics or to publish the basics, because always new people are entering, always new people are start to learning or need a new way to enter the community. So the basics are really, really great, and I I say for myself, I started programming because of a really passionate programmer that, make these little cartoons about Ruby, the language. It was why the Poignance Guide to Ruby. And because of that, I got hooked, and then I started to like programming. So, and thank you for show what's possible. I think this is the most valuable thing I get from the DevRel in general. When they show me things I can do, because some APIs, some APIs, some frameworks, they have so much potential, but it's not it's not always clear, right? Uh, when when we see a new thing, we can, just it's just another JavaScript framework or something like that. But if someone takes time to show, here's see what you can do with this framework, I think this open a lot of possibilities. And I I can attest by myself. I literally presented to directors from a company and things like that. Products, ideas for products. I heard in some tutorials, you know in some live streams. I think this work of show what's possible is what makes so great the role of the DevRels, because otherwise some APIs or some frameworks could, just go unnoticed. And thank you for the code, examples, and real world applications. And I stress that because of what? Because the dry documentation sometimes, puts the code in the highest level possible, in the straight implementation, without all the fuzzy, without all the configurations we had to do just to make our SDK work. And I see that a lot of the DevRel work sometimes is just this: show to us exactly step by step how to put a real world application. No full bars and meaningless examples, or just bare bone examples, because I learn most from real world applications. And as, again, a person from with the first language is not English, I have not only to learn JavaScript, Ruby, Python, or any language I will program at the time. I had to learn English as well. I usually talk to other members of my team that our first language, we like or not, should be English, because even the language uses English itself. And the truth is, the majority of the content about any framework in any language is on English. And I would like also thank you to give me to the trade-offs. And here's in this point I touch the fine line, I think, exists between the marketing, the push, and the the pull part of the DevRel work, because we can see when someone is pushing too hard something on us. And I like a lot when people came with all the trade-offs to us. They show this is good for this specific use case. We have this problem with this particular use case, or puts side by side with other options, and not always their tool is the best tool. Is everything in the world has its trade-offs, and I thank you a lot for all the DevRels in the world that give me these trade-offs, because I think I understand better what I am doing with that, and I can improvise. I can, I can build upon the knowledge is passing to me. And also, thank you for raising the bar and at the same time keeping real, because I think one wonderful characteristics of the community of the DevRels in general is, even when a person is showing us a particular SDK, a particular product, they are also discussing, capturing, introducing us to a lot of cool and, very important concept that people that doesn't have a formal education in science computation sometimes wouldn't have. So I think this way to approach and, stop and, show us all the little things behind each decision makes we raise the bar, but at the same time is very reassuring. See, someone, make a typo in a live stream, or see their mistakes. We can see how we can, they are people like us. I think this is the most incredible feeling when you are starting to program, when you see, other people pass through this. Even senior engineers forgot a semicolon and something like that. And I want to thank you all for being kind. I always feel a lot of, welcome by all the DevRels I got in touch. I think this is a very thing I can stress. It's not all the DevRels. There's community that, to be very frank and very open to this, is very not friendly to newcomers. But I think when DevRel started to be a role by the companies, and they started to invest in this role, and started to create communities around it, like this conference, like other conference, and talk about, I think it created a better environment for everyone. And I think in this process we became kinder and kinder with each other. And thank you for listening, because I think in the end, the great DevRels are that ones that listen us, that see our pains, and come back with see, we heard your feedback, and we improve it in this way. It's great when some company releases a thing you are waiting for so long. It's very good feeling when it is happening. I would like to thank you. It is my open love letter to all of you. And thank you for the hard work, because as an introvert myself, I think a lot about how hard is the work of the DevRels, that most people gets unnoticed, because sometimes my friends say aloud about some DevRels. They just keep in traveling and speaking in conferences, and they are just people that keeps traveling and traveling. but it's hard work, put yourself in the center, speak for a framework, speak for a company, speak for a language, speak for a community. It's a very, very, very heavy work. And I appreciate someone takes the burner, because I don't see myself as a DevRel. And because of that, I have to thank you a lot for this work you are being done. And last year, I read this great book, Work in Public, The Making and Maintenance of Open Source Software by Nadia Egel. It's a book that focuses on open source, but in, in the end of the book, she started to talk about how creators and maintainers monetize their work. And she talked about parasocial relationships and the creators economy, that is not just a phenomenon of YouTubers, idols, or streamers, but is seen in the same way with library library maintainers. And I think we could as well put DevRels in this continuum, because one way or another, you are all inserted in this kind of creator economy and having this kind of parasocial relationships, and is a very big marketing right now. And there's a lot of platforms, and I think this go back to that big thank you for the hard work, because you are not just talking with your community, you are talking with your community across a lot of platforms, across video, across streaming, across message. And I even can't mensurate how much is the psychological work, the psychological burden a DevRel has. And there's this post by John Randolph, Evolution of Creator Economy, when he puts programmers, developers, and persons releasing their softwares exactly in this creator economy shift he sees in the long run, with the mass democratization of the platforms, cloud, and even more new ways to develop. And about parasocial relationship, has this paper from 1956, is about the illusion people have that they have a personal relationship with the person they follow, they see on TV, they see on YouTube. The original research was about TV and radio because of the time, but I think it plays a large role right now in the community, because I can say for myself, I have a lot of DevRels I inspired and I follow. And what happens when they leave their stack or move to another company? This happened recently, I can say from a personal point of view. I think a lot of my talks are personal point of view, but it's really strange, since someone you have this bond, because you develop in the same framework, and you learn a lot from that person, and then that person leaves the company, and someone is trying to take that role in the company, and you feel these feelings of what? No, and you start to see the work people are doing in other places, and it's totally different of what you work. I can say for you guys, the parasocial relationship exists, and I think a lot of people has cheese with each one of you, and I don't have any answers for on how to deal with, but I just want to say that I really care about the psychological safety of the DevRel people, and I think is it should be a, a subject you have to talk a lot. And I wanted to just put my closing thoughts right now. Uh, I am here today all because of DevRel people that paved the way for me. I started my graduation. I started in philosophy, and then I I became fascinated by Ruby, that is a language created by a Japanese person, and then I started to develop for web, be on Rails, and I follow various trends. Now I develop mostly in JavaScript, and now I am working a lot with cloud and serverless and so on. And it was all DevRel people that make me feel welcome, that make me feel part of a global village, a truly global village, in the words of the late uh, Canadian theorist McLuhan. He said about the internet in the early days as global village. And I think this is the role of DevRel people. Be this kind of uh, hunters for our global village, bringing gifts for us. And for say, I had to say a big thank you. And I love the work you are been doing. And take care of yourself. And thank you, arigato. And I appreciate you all the time for me be here. And I would love to talk about with you about, anything related. Thank you.